Okay, great, great. So we can record now. So please go ahead.
Okay, great. I can see that it's also sorted now. Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry for the delay once again. My name is Kehinde Adebiyi, but I'm commonly called Kenny, and I'm a PhD scholar studying microbiology and genetics at Indiana University, Bloomington. I have previous experience in technology, entrepreneurship, and design, and I also lead the SDG team in Nigeria. I've been a member of Policy Shaper for over a year now, and also one of the founders. And I'll be speaking briefly about what Policy Shaper is, what do we do, what do we stand for, and also taking you a bit of a trajectory for the last 12 months. And just to give the summary discussion is that we are open to collaboration, partnership, and also looking forward to work together to draft policies that will not only change Africa's development, but the world at large. Thank you. Next slide, please. Great. So about Policy Shapers. Policy Shapers was launched in August 2020 after intense introspection of the state of things in the country and the world at large. We recognize the fact that there are so many issues affecting Nigeria, Africa, and the world at large. But in the same vein, there's a great divide between ideas and analysis from citizens and individuals that does not have an opportunity to be part of the government or top institutions that would necessarily change the way things are viewed from the government angle. Sometimes we tend to make a mistake of observing challenges or issues in a different perspective than the way it really is out there. So we discovered to create a platform where every individual can have a voice. And please know the word every individual. We don't, nobody cares about where you're coming from, your background, your age, the person you know. As far as you have an idea that is instrumental for national development and international development, you believe that you should have a voice, and that is what Policy Shapers stand for. So what we do basically is we are an open source and open data system where we get policies, ideas from youths. We are mostly youth dominated to ensure that people's voice are heard. And we publish these online, ensure that some of them are sent to top governmental institutions. And since we've started, we've had over 241, about 250 persons now, policy enthusiasts. And we've done a lot of work. When I mean policy enthusiasts, individuals that have been volunteering, wanting to contribute to our community, and also help one way or the other in drafting some of our policies. Thus far, we've published about 15 policies ideas in the area of education, COVID-19, in the area of open data system, which we'll be talking about extensively today, and other segments, and ways to ensure that there is just equality, fairness, and a good system for everyone. Our strategy is open source. You can go on to policyshapers.com and you would be able to access anything. Anybody can join us. And we have a website that has been launched for aggregating policy ideas. So thus far, we've participated in 3 global hackathons, and we've been leading the pace. We emerged third in the recently concluded Stanford Open Datathon, where we talk also on transparency and open data. We develop policy framework on virtual learning, COVID-19 and technology. Eben, which will soon come on play, and other persons here. Not only are we doing these policies, but we've possibly gone through some of these critical areas. And team members' career growth. As I said earlier, I've been working with the SDGs advocacy and United Nations for the past 4 or 5 years now. We also have a team member, Eben himself, we also happens to be the founder and the leader, which I've been working with British Council Youth Board. And also I've done a lot of amazing stuff. He's an Harvard graduate. I'm sure he's going to introduce himself better. We have a national security fellow who also is a graduate student here in the United States. We have a Chimdi alumni, a Mandela Washington fellow also. And we also have a tech entrepreneur doing great stuff in that agricultural segment, which is Comfort. What this means is that we are coming from different perspectives, different disciplines, different regions of the world, all come together to ensure that we propagate ideas and ensure that we bring people ideas together to create change. And beyond our work in Policy Shaper, we collaborate a lot. We launch campaigns such as the End IELTS campaign, which I believe Eben will talk extensively about. And we've done some of these things. So I'll hand over to my other team member, which is Chimdi, to just introduce the concept of what we are going to talk about today. Thank you. Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure Chimdi is here yet. I think he's still trying to navigate through. So Kenny, do you want to quickly take a second?
Sure. Yeah. I'm excited to do it. And one thing, as I said earlier, about it is a great deal of collaboration. So there's nobody here that cannot take out this slide. So basically, I think it is very, very important for us to, what bet this stuff we are talking about, or these open data transparencies, firstly, to look at the impact of COVID-19 on education. I'm a microbiologist, and I can tell you clearly that COVID-19 came in at a time we least expected, not even at a time where science is most advanced. And we could not believe that a pandemic that in a way is much more, disastrous than the 1820 pandemic and that than we have in previous times, like the influenza is what we have now. But beyond the impact of COVID-19 on health, on the economic sector, it also fundamentally affects the core of development, which is education. There's a great deal of learning losses. Schools were locked down. Numerous institutions could not, continue the educational system. But one thing COVID-19 has also shown us, quoting the word of His Excellency, the WHO Director General, where he said that COVID-19 do not only show our health disparity, but also show a great deal of inequality in all our systems. And this shows clearly that COVID-19 affects all segments, but more peculiarly on education. But now moving forward, I can see that Chimdi has joined, and that this section is meant for him to take. But importantly, we recognize the impact of COVID-19 on education, and I hand over to Chimdi to give us more of the statistics, which has been assigned to him to go. So Chimdi, I fill it for you for just a minute, and I guess you can pick it up from there. Yeah.
Thank you very much. The time I thought it was 12 Eastern time, but sorry about that. And so continue from where Eben stopped, we see that COVID-19 literally widened the inequality gap in terms of education, especially for students in Africa, in most countries in Africa. We see that even in the same places in Africa, for instance, in private institutions, we are able to, innovate and bring in forms of digital learning and online learning. You see that students in such private institutions continued learning, while students in public institutions, in most places in Nigeria, paused their learning. Their learning were halted for more than, even throughout the pandemic, for more than 12 months. People didn't have access to learning resources. And so there's also please, can you go to the next slide? Because I think there are some statistics that we'll have there. Yes, so you see that that several in terms of impact of COVID on learning, you see that as a result of the lockdown, as a result of closure of schools, people pivoted into online learning. And yet, as we said before, that online learning is not also available for several demographics of people, and the resources needed to complete this are not available for everyone. And so there's this disparity. There's this disparity in terms of those who are able to learn, or those students, as we saw here, students who are willing to learn. And so some 85% of those who we surveyed have also already started studying online as a result of COVID. And so the idea behind our policy memo is that since people are willing to learn, since people have started pivoting online, that these learning resources, these statistics that show that can encourage people to learn more. Statistics like enrollment that my colleagues will talk about later on. Eben will highlight on that. Enrollment statistics and completion statistics. We feel that some of these will encourage people to even get into online learning, to even embrace it, despite the inequality that exists in terms of access to these online learning resources. Yeah, next slide.
Thank you so much, Chimdi. Can you guys hear me? Yeah?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Chimdi. Yeah, we always find a way to innovate as we go along. So they've pretty much given a background to what Policy Shapers is about and what led to this research, and what the landscape pretty much was like. especially in Nigeria when we experienced the COVID-19 pandemic. I always say, and I always feel like different countries experience COVID differently. People had their own unique experiences, and for us in Nigeria, the education sector, I would say, almost took the worst hit, especially the public education sector. And so that's one of the things we're highlighting here. My name is Ebenezar Wikina, as everyone has been saying, Eben throughout our presentations. I'm lucky to lead this amazing team of young shapers, global shapers, policy shapers who are not just complaining about the state of the world, but are looking for ways they can come up with solutions. So I'll be speaking quickly on the National Center for Education Statistics in the US and the current state of data for virtual universities on that platform. I would also speak quickly on data privacy laws and why it's important for virtual universities to consider these laws. And I'll speak on the 3 policy recommendations that we gave during the Stanford Open Datathon, where this policy memo was first shared, talking about how we think that virtual universities can pretty much respond to, use open data pretty much to respond to the various needs that they have faced currently in their execution. So next slide, Toby. Can Toby hear me? Next slide. Hello. Can someone help? Can someone help check with him? I think his internet is part of the COVID-19 challenges is the very crazy internet all across the world.
I think he's having some technical issue.
Yes, I guess so. Okay. Anyway, so by the time Toby comes, you'll pretty much find from the slides, first of all, that there's only 1 in 5 virtual universities who have their data currently up on the National Center for Education Statistics website, right? We first believe that that is a huge gap. What this means pretty much is that there's no veritable data, there's no verified data on what's happening in virtual institutions or virtual universities, what is the course completion rates, how many people actually start courses and actually finish. Is there like an alumni program? Do people actually finish programs and get jobs? There's so many angles to the conversation pretty much. And not having these data out there leaves a lot of questions, right? And COVID-19 has shown us that virtual learning is here to stay. And so we think that it's important that we continue to advocate for virtual universities to share all of this data, because it will help. First of all, the first thing we think it will do is it will help give us a better understanding of what's happening in that space. Because at the moment, everyone just has assumptions. We're all learning online, we're all doing this and we're all doing that, but we feel like there's no veritable data to prove and consolidate on all of these gains that we think COVID has presented to us. The second point you will find from the slides is that, so there are several data privacy laws and there are several ethical issues. The slide, when it moves, you'll see has a map that shows all of the various countries and their various data privacy laws, yeah? And all of these countries, right, have various, clauses and, sort of offense charges and everything. And so knowing that the virtual space covers, the entire world, it's very important that we believe, as virtual universities want to start sharing all of this data, and as we encourage them to do so, it's very important that we're able to give all of this information shared along the context of the various privacy laws, right? It's very key not to break the GDPR in Europe. There's also the South African ethical data privacy law. There's several of these laws across the US and India and somewhere in Australia and co. So it's very key to understand that all of these laws do pose as a challenge to virtual universities. However, we believe that it's possible. I mean, social media platforms are able to navigate through this very crazy space And we strongly believe that it's possible to go through it. Okay, the slide has moved. So just back to the issue I was speaking about, virtual universities having their data on the NCES. One of the key points is that currently there's no transparent data system to optimize virtual learning. And that virtual learning, as we know, is the future of education. And with currently about 27,000 online degrees, we sort of believe that this would continue to increase over time. And another data there that pretty much speaks to this shows that 7 million students enrolled in at least one distant course as at the fall of 2018. And that's somewhere compared to about 3 million students at the fall of 2012. So, I mean, that's a huge 5 million gap. And I'm sure if we do the analysis for 2020 and 2021, you might have another extra 2 or 3 million added to that number. So distant learning, virtual learning, all of that there's a huge potential, right, for growth. But if there's no data to optimize this system, there will hardly be growth in that particular system. So I just thought to emphasize that quickly. Next slide. Yes, this also shows the map I was speaking to earlier. It's from Telemessage. It pretty much shows all of the data privacy laws and key ethical issues. There's the BDSG in Britain, there's the CCPA somewhere in the US, there's the PIPEDA in Canada. All of these laws sort of pose a threat. And we said ethically, virtual universities need to take into account digital privacy policies, which prescribe how companies can collect, store, and use personal data, right? Proper management of learners' consent will allow virtual universities access to information, and consent, again, is very key. We've found that, especially for virtual learning, there's need to over and over again collect consent of students, and these virtual universities can then have a student affairs division that manages that data, the consent, the data, and all of the legal processes. Next slide. Yeah, so the next slide pretty much covers our policy recommendations before we give it up to Comfort to speak about the impact logic. So for our policy recommendations, there are 3 of them. The first recommendation is that we believe that enrollment statistics need to be visualized better. Currently, if you go to a random virtual university or a virtual course or program, what you would see is that you would see 27,000 students enrolled or 40-something thousand students enrolled without any way to verify or confirm, or even for students to begin to engage with themselves, naturally, right, or organically. So we believe that enrollment data needs to be visualized better beyond just listing the number of people who have enrolled for a particular course. There was an example from a Harvard Kennedy program that I took part in 2019, where there was a quick Google map, open source map of all of the students who had registered. Of course, the students who gave their consent to be put on the map, right? And where they were, some kind of work that they've done. And so when we enrolled to the program, for the first week where we were doing all of the introduction and all the introductory parts of the program, we're able to begin organically engaging with each other because there was a map showing everyone and where they were. So we think using an interactive map will help to enhance learner experience. Secondly, publication of graduation or course completion rates is key, right? Of course, we learners' consent again, because I don't think I want any university to publish my scores without my consent. So of course, getting learners' consent, but getting that data out there, we believe would help demystify all of the conversation around, online studies, dropout rate, or is it high, or is it low, is it working, is it not working? All of that will help us understand that better, right? And so we believe using infographics. If you guys can hear me, we believe using infographics would help a long way to pretty much show all of these details and foster motivation and networking. Quickly, my time is almost up. Quickly, we believe student feedback needs to be signposted, just the way you have Uber or Airbnb or any of these apps, right, who use a lot of open source technology. We believe that virtual universities can leverage that sort of technology to show student feedback, such that feedback from students are shown. So before I take a particular course, whether it's on, I don't know, optical science or biomimicry or something, I'd love to know if people are taking that course before, what do they think about it? What do they think I should look out for? What do they think I should avoid, right? So getting all that information will help people make good decisions about their learning, and could even help guard against people who drop out of the courses. We believe transparent ratings and recommendations from learners can definitely help to aid optimization of learning models across virtual universities. So that's just a quick view of our policy recommendations. I'll hand over now quickly to Comfort as she speaks about our impact logic. Is Comfort here? I think you're mute. Sorry. You're still muted. Okay.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Comfort Onyaga. I'm joining in from Nigeria. Well done, Eben, and the rest of the team. So far, so good. So I'm the founder of Clive's Foundation and an alumni of the Founder Institute, the world's largest pre-seed acceleration program for startups, with the headquarters at Silicon Valley. I'm also a market system development specialist and a team member of the Policy Shapers. So, excuse me. Yeah, so furtherance to what my team members have presented in regards to how open data, sorry, was the theme again. So how I'll be speaking on how opening key data sets can directly impact virtual university. Next slide, please. So my focus area is the impact logic. You are aware that for whatever policy advocacy that is designed, there is always an impact, meaning it's get towards achieving a result. But in terms of how we are able to achieve impact, or what for this particular policy we're advocating for, we have been able to put in a whole lot of resources as a team members. We are experts from diverse backgrounds. The other team members have been able to share their expertise and what they bring to the table in the policy space. So we also, regardless of our busy schedule, have been able to put in time, dedicate our time, to put this together, to carry out research, and also develop the impact logic for this particular policy. Then we are also able to, from our little resources, right, we're able to make financial contributions to ensure that the researches and the assessment that was carried out pre-study was carried out. And we are all aware that, especially for us in African countries, data is usually expensive. I mean, internet data. So we're able to make sacrifices, make contribution towards ensuring that the right resources is put in place to achieve all the key activities. So some of the activities that was carried out in order to ensure that we have the outcome here, stakeholders mapping. We've been able to map out the key stakeholders, then analyze the stakeholders in terms of what they bring to the table, how they can drive and ensure that these policies are implemented. We have various stakeholders, but not all the stakeholders are relevant to the work in terms of outcome. Then stakeholders engagement. We've been able to engage with key stakeholders beyond analysis or based on the outcome of the stakeholders analysis. Key stakeholders are engaged, starting from the key beneficiaries of this policy we're advocating for. Students from across the globe were engaged, as well as the other stakeholders in academic institutions. Then we've been sharing, so currently, for instance, we're advocating for the reform in the IELTS policy, and we've been able to draft policy memos. They are all available on our website, policyshapers.com. If you go there, you see them. We also have, these policy memos are targeted towards specific stakeholders. In terms of output, right? we've been able to map out these stakeholders according to their relevance to the policy issues. Then these stakeholders are analyzed based on the interests and the role they play in the policy issues we are advocating for. Then the stakeholders are now aware of the key issues to be addressed in the policy areas based on urgency statement. Our policy memo consists of urgency statements. If you go to our website, you see a couple of policies memos we have drafted in the past, and for these particular policy issues as well. In terms of outcomes, stakeholders in the virtual universities across the globe get actively involved in the policy issue. This is an expected outcome for this particular policy issue we're advocating for, and for which we are creating awareness. And again, I would like to say it can be adapted to suit your context, depending on the continent you're participating from. And you can also reach out to us, for more information on how to participate or have this policy memo adapted to include your part of the continent. Then in terms of impact, we expect that at the end of this, the virtual university will adopt open data as a pathway to transparency. Thank you very much. I'll be handed over to the next team members to go take it up from there. Eben, can you please take over?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Comfy. Yeah, I mean, this case study pretty much just showed the University of People, and this is, I mean, at the moment, this is the best form of data representation that the only virtual university currently on the National Center for Education Statistics has. I mean, it's pretty much a table. It's the best we could find, but at least it's something, right? And we believe that if other virtual universities begin to toe the same line and begin to share information, I believe that, or we believe that the only place to go is upward. And as we continue to make this pretty much better, we'll be able to get the desired results. So yeah, so I think we can hand over next to Toby to speak quickly about why we think this is urgent, so we can have some time for questions, just in case some people have questions. Yeah, okay, yeah, go on, Toby.
Yes. Sorry, I'm going to. Yeah, this is the pandemic has shown us how urgent the need to address a lot of the education crisis has been, and especially what Kehinde was talking about widening the gap. I think UNICEF clearly puts it that the pandemic has taken us 30 years behind on achieving a lot of the SDGs. And this is really important because it means that we still have a 2030 goal, and we still we have less time and we have way more work. I think the World Economic Forum earlier yesterday, depending on where you are, said that about 100 million people are falling back into poverty. And so there's a need for us to look at how virtual institutions are potential leaders in this new era, because if we must solve a lot of the education crisis, we strongly believe that technology has a very big role to play, not just because it has been transforming many sectors, but because of the kind of access that technology can give. And so we believe that rather than serving as subordinates to traditional universities, virtual universities should be on its own an alternative system, and not be subordinate. It should be virtual universities and virtual learning systems should completely drive transformation across in education from rural to urban areas. We also believe that the failure to do this might increase the the problems around adoption. So one of the key problems that we found out is that in some markets in the MEA, a lot of employers discriminate against certificates from virtual universities versus those from traditional universities. And this is why most people who even have access in the first place, for example, do not want to explore getting programs in a lot of, or attending programs in a lot of virtual institutions. And then it kind of limits the transformative power of technology, because if we want to adopt technology in healthcare, I mean, we want to adopt virtual technology in healthcare, but we don't want to adopt virtual technology of virtual institutions in education. It is very problematic, and it's not good for a lot of transformation that we are looking at. I see that we're running out of time, so I would be going straight into taking questions. If anybody has questions, or if anybody has any comments or further thoughts, or what you would like us to talk about, or anything that requires clarification, we'll be open to taking questions for about the next 30 minutes. You can put it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and you can ask your question. While we're waiting for questions, I would be talking about a lot of what virtual transformation or virtual institution transformation really is about. A lot of the problems with virtual institutions before used to be around problems of access. And we've seen more transformative efforts, including one by a Nigerian startup, Ulesing, that are seeing it use storage device to increase access to education. So it means that even in areas that suffer from poor access to or no access to electricity or poor access to internet, it means they can still learn, because we're able to equip students or learners with storage devices that can include softwares for assessment. And across the globe, I think a lot of people are becoming software developers, an intersection between professional career and in software development. So we're seeing more doctors become software developers, more teachers become software developers, and not just people who are software developers as in core software developers. And why this is important is because it means that we are able to individually shape learning across different fields. And I think this is a really good step in the right direction to increasing access to education and also to transforming virtual institutions. I see that there are no questions right now or further comments.
Yeah, there was a comment from Christine who said she had to leave early, but she was just thanking us for the insight and the presentations.
Okay.
Yes, and just to,
I think it's recorded. I think it's recorded. So yes, you can catch up online. Exactly.
And then just to add as well, feel free to check out our website, www.policyshapers.com. We do have quite a bit more policy issues that we've covered. Issues around use of the internet. We've covered issues around Nigeria's social policy, etc. And we're of course encouraging other young people who are interested to share their ideas. I mean, it's an open source platform, and so our plan is that anybody anywhere can share the idea, and anybody anywhere can come up and read an idea, get inspired to solve a policy challenge. So please do well to check that out. Thank you, Eba, for joining us and staying with us. And thanks to the team, and thanks to everyone. All of these guys are young people, young Nigerians, fellows in different parts of the world, and scholars and everything, just doing amazing work. So thanks everyone. Toby, if you want to wrap up.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining. We would appreciate if we can push up further engagement, send us an email, also follow us on social media. Thank you so much to the Policy Shapers team and to Eva and everyone who has been commenting on the chat. We look forward to driving further engagement with you. Once again, I'll say thank you for joining the call.